Good morning, Rachel.
Good morning, friends.
Good morning, Rachel.
Here we go. Was this a great move or a pretty good move or even a bad move by the Milwaukee Bucks?
I think this is a great move.
Great move.
Both in the
Great.
short picture and the long-term picture. Short term, this season, you have supercharged this offense. This is a top 75 player of all time. He is lethal on the pick and roll, and that is with subpar centers. Put him with Giannis Antetokounmpo, it's going to be an insane offensive explosion this season. He's going to energize a team that, frankly, has been kind of floundering a little bit in its identity since winning the title. And, you know, yes, it is a bit of a downgrade on the perimeter defense. I love Jrue Holiday. He is one of my favorite players in the NBA.
Ditto.
He is going to be we're going to talk later about the Jrue Holiday market. People are going to go insane bidding for Jrue Holiday right now with Portland putting him on the trading block. However, he is not Damian Lillard. And it's like comparing a fabulous, expensive wine, which is what Jrue Holiday is, to one of the great cellar wines of all time. This guy is so good in the clutch, which is an area that Milwaukee has occasionally had problems with in key moments of playoff series. And then if you look in the long term, you have to look at the fact that Giannis was basically threatening to leave over the past month or two. This is delivering him exactly what he wants. You are making him happy. You are taking the pressure this season off of getting questions every month of, is Giannis happy enough? What do you think is going to happen with Giannis? And don't forget, Jrue Holiday is on an expiring contract where as early as this coming spring, they would be faced with the question of, do we hand him $200 million plus? And you no longer have to deal with that anymore either. So there's just a lot of big picture reasons. And the last thing I'll throw in there is that this means that Damian Lillard is not going to the Miami Heat, the team that knocked the Bucks out of the playoffs last year. So keeping him from Miami is a win also.
Yeah, it's a great deal, Rachel, for the Bucks. But one thing it does not do is guarantee an NBA title. I mean, when you look at players that have come over, whether it's via free agency or trade in the first year, outside of Kawhi Leonard to Toronto here in recent memory, if it serves me correct, that's the only team that won a championship, right?
Rasheed Wallace.
Excuse me?
Rasheed Wallace in Detroit.
Well, that was 100 years ago.
It was not.
But when you think about it here recently,
yes,
that hasn't been the case. I mean, you could kind of somewhat have the conversation around Anthony Davis and the Lakers, but that was a weird situation. But overall, it's all about the championships. Yeah. And yes, Giannis did subliminally kind of threaten them by saying, hey, I don't know
it was
about
not
this.
Subliminal.
Well, I
he
mean,
came out and said he'd have to look elsewhere if they didn't step it up.
Yeah, but the conversation with them as of today is not go get Dame Lillard. That conversation wasn't.
Yes.
So it's kind of like he put it out there, they reacted, but is he going to sign? Is he still going to sign, or will he become a free agent when that time comes, where now Dame is stuck in Milwaukee and he's on to something greater or better? Look, you mentioned the defensive perimeter side of the ball. I love Jrue Holiday, too. They're going to miss that. Dame isn't going to be that guy on the perimeter defensive end. But what they do gain is they gain three-point shooting, something they desperately needed. They gain another leader on the basketball floor. So all of those sort of things works perfect for them in terms of this scenario. Again, it doesn't guarantee that championship, though. That's the one thing that in all of it, you sit there and you go, well, if this is a KD to Golden State, well, it's a championship. We don't know that yet with Milwaukee.
Okay. First up, I got to say this. I have dared Damian Lillard for years to go ahead and push for a trade and back up his talk by walking to wherever to show us all I can go there and do that. I'm not just the biggest fish in a small pond. So this was a very shrewd move by Dame, and I congratulate him for this move, for having the guts to go through with it. But remember, he just went from being a big fish in a little pond to joining a bigger fish in an even smaller pond. Because if you just look at size of TV market, there are 28 TV markets in this league, and Portland ranks 20th, and Milwaukee is all the way down at 25th. So he actually went to a smaller market than he has been, quote unquote, stuck in Portland. I love Portland. I could live in Portland, but that's just me. All right, so I'm going to give both of you this. It is a great move for Milwaukee in the long term, but I do not think it's a great move in the now, in the short term, because of what you just said. You want to talk about a baller? Jrue Holiday, an LA kid, as you know, he is a flat-out baller.
Yes.
Nobody's going to disagree with this.
Yes.
because he defends at the highest level. And defensive win shares just last year, I know he's an aging player, so is Dame. Drew's actually a month older.
I was going to say, they're basically the same age.
They're basically the same, 33.
Yeah.
Drew Holiday finished 4th in defensive win shares last year at 32. That is high level. Milwaukee finished 4th overall in defensive efficiency, and they've been first in the couple previous years. But just remember, they went 58-24 last year, and they had the best record in the East. So if it ain't broke, do you have to fix it?
I mean, they got knocked out in the first round of the playoffs. Obviously, there was an injury, but
why did they get knocked out?
There was an injury, but also
but Jimmy Butler went out of his mind
on the perimeter. Yes.
Hey, you can rank performances in single playoff series, and Jimmy's would be up there. It might be like top 10 all time. I was looking at the numbers this morning. He shot 44% from 3 in the 5 games, averaged 38, 6, and 5. Even he scored 56 in game 4, and then in the closeout game, 42. And he's just shooting out of his mind. And Drew is guarding him a good bit of the time, but nobody could. Michael Jordan could have guarded Jimmy through those games.
Look, their perimeter defense will take a hit. Like that sentence doesn't change.
But it may get balanced out on the offensive end.
Well, I was going to say, not only balance out on the offensive end, but don't forget, they have Giannis and Brook Lopez, who is one of the leading candidates for Defensive Player of the Year last season.
They're really good.
You have 2.
They even have Robin Lopez.
Right. You have 2 NBA first-team all-defense players in your starting 5. Most teams don't have 1, right? They've got 2 of them. So, yes, on the perimeter, the defense is going to be a little weaker.
I take nothing away from Dame's ability to score. And you cannot tell me that Jimmy Haslam and his wife didn't have something to do with this, because now he's one of the new owners of the Bucks. And remember what he did in Cleveland?
Yep.
It's like, just pull the trigger. Go. Deshaun, we can get Deshaun. We got to pay him $230 guaranteed. Let's just go get him. Because you just swing for the fences here. You go get Dame if he's available.
But see, Skip, as much as we love Drew Holiday, and like Rachel was saying, you get just a classic wine that's at the bottom of the cellar and one that's in the refrigerator, but it's still great and good.
It's not just in the refrigerator.
You're gonna reach. No, you're gonna reach for the one that's classic, that's the best, if you have the ability to get it. You can have.
You're talking box office. I'm not sure you're talking about wins and losses.
No,
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the case. If you go back and you look at when he took Portland to the Western Conference Finals, along with McCullough, obviously, dude was playing out his mind.
And he did play out of his mind in the finals.
I understand that, but over the course of that season, and then through them playoffs up into the final, he was playing ridiculous. And I understand you lose something on the defensive end, and you say, well, why would we give up this to get that? There's certain players in sports, and I remember this from Bill Parcells. I asked Bill when I had Adrian Morrell as our running back. Adrian Morrell rushed for 1,300 yards in 97. And he went and got Curtis Martin and gave up the farm for Curtis. Essentially, the same rushing attempts, the same yards. He said, he's just different.
Yeah.
He's just a different guy.
Okay, but Adrian Morrell is not Drew Holiday.
I understand that, but I'm talking about guys that deliver some of the same sort of stuff.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
All right. I got to go.
Well, no, I was just going to say, you also have to look at the fact that this is, as you point out, Skip, a very small market. And Giannis, as we know, you just said he could resign, he could not resign. Yeah. If he does walk, if something goes wrong, you still have a superstar in Damian Lillard on the floor.
You
need that
got 4 years left on his deal,
too. You need that draw in a market like Milwaukee.
We didn't even talk about the draft picks because they're so far out there, 28, 29, 30. Yeah. They're so far, it's like mind-boggling how far out they are. But if you do lose Giannis, at some point you're going to have to pay the piper because there's an unprotected first and there's some unprotected swaps, and you bet your long-term future on now and trying to keep Giannis because he could sign right now. He could do another 4-year, and next year he could do a 5-year.
Everybody, when they make these type of trades, they give up the form to make the trades because it's about the now. Okay, they don't look to 29 and 30. Yeah, but for all we know, they may not even own a team in 29 and 30.
But they do want to keep Giannis, and they knew they had little to no chance without this.
Of course you want to keep Giannis.
And do not underestimate. These two have sort of quietly campaigned to join each other for a long time. And it was sort of hiding in plain sight because obviously when LeBron and Giannis were making the All-Star picks, Giannis has the first overall pick, and he just
Damian
shocks
Lillard,
LeBron.
man.
He took Dame, and LeBron is fully expecting him to take Drew because
Holiday.
it's his guy,
Yep.
right? And it shocked LeBron to the point he said, "You just messed up all my draft order,"
Yep.
and he had to really sort of recalculate. Now, what am I going to do? And yet, Giannis was saying he was showing his heart. I want him. And by the way, Dame has tweeted about the one guy he wanted to play with was that
Giannis
guy.
Antetokounmpo.
Okay?
Well, they're very similar personality-wise, right? So you have two guys who weren't like super highly touted high school prospects, that kind
point.
of thing.
They're
They
the
both
same.
had to
Yep.
work their butts off to get where they are. They're both super family guys. They're very involved with their kids. Their kids are
Yep.
around the same age. I think that's going to be a very close
It will
basis
be.
of their friendship. And they play the same way in terms of like the heart and the competitiveness is all right there. And that loyalty factor, I think one of the reasons Giannis has always been so impressed with Dame is that Giannis has come out and talked about how in an NBA where guys move around all the time, he has a lot of respect for players who stay with their teams. And I know that this is a trade of Damian Lillard away from his team, but that is after, a decade of service. And I think it's an understandable move. And I think that loyalty factor speaks to Giannis also.
We talked about it a couple of weeks ago, you, I, and Skip, about once a player says, I want out, he is not going to stay in Portland. It was a lot of people saying, hey, well, maybe trade deadline, he'll go. You can't coach a guy and have a guy in the building that's halfway in, halfway out. Portland made the right move. He made the right move.
But they got the right player because, to Rachel's point, now watch the auction that's about to ensue
Oh
for
my
Drew
God.
Holiday.
Yes.
The wine that's in the
Yeah,
refrigerator
of course.
is going to
It's not
feel
in the
like wine down in the
What's wrong
basement.
with
By the
wine
way,
being in the refrigerator?
Drew Holiday is one of your best wines in your wine cellar.
It is.
Damian Lillard is the one you get at auction, right? Is the wine you get at auction.
Okay, so
that is the difference.
the one in the auction and one in the cellar.
There you go.
Wine cooler, cellar, same thing. But he asked to be traded. He got traded. He got what he wanted.
Yeah.
And that's the way the NBA and professional sports is in this day and age. When you say I want out, they'll move you to the place you want to be.
If you can suddenly get Drew Holiday back, and again, when I first heard it, I thought, would Portland consider keeping Drew Holiday because they just landed DeAndre Ayton, and as they start to rebuild under one of the top coaches in Chauncey Billups, I'm the biggest fan.
Yeah.
It's time to get young, though.
Okay, I got it. But you want to talk about a veteran leader and mentor for the kids. Drew would be that, but obviously he's going to be such a hot commodity
I was gonna
that they
say.
can just cash right back in.
I would.
It's even hard to rank the East right now, thinking, what if Boston gets him? What if Philly gets him? What if Miami gets him?
Boston should try. Philly should try. The Clippers should try.
The Heat are going to try.
The Heat will
could
definitely try. He would be a
the
perfect
Warriors
Miami Heat.
could try.
They could try.
I
They
mean,
could try.
And then
That's
what you
gonna be
gonna
very
do? Then what you gonna do? Move CP3?
I mean, if you had the
Good.
chance to swap Drew Holiday and Chris Paul at this point in Chris's career, obviously they've talked all summer about how good a fit Chris has been in the offseason workout stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're eager to get rid of him. But
just saying,
salary-wise,
it matches.
It matches, and then they have some draft picks that they could give up. And for them, I mean, it's worth the phone call, right? I mean, there's a bunch of teams out there. To me, Boston is the most interesting one because if Boston adds Drew Holiday to that core that they have right now,
So what would they have to give up?
I mean, they would give up Malcolm Brogdon and a bunch of picks, which they have. So that's sort of where
But
they
now
are.
you get Marcus Smart back.
You get the
have
equivalent
your-
of Marcus
yes,
Smart
yes.
back. And by the way, I mean, just the fit with those guys, that's one of the great things about Drew Holiday is he will fit with so many teams and be the activator for teams that are just right at that almost enough to be championship level.
Yeah.
That's why there's going to be a huge bidding war for him.
All right, I got to throw this out. I'm not as big a Dame fan as you two are, especially you. I still question his mental toughness occasionally. I don't question his ability because it's
Mental
supreme.
toughness with what, Skip?
Just clutch shooting. Like Rachel thinks he's a great clutch shooter. We could go on and on. I don't want to get back into this.
He is
but
a clutch shooter.
He's one of the
he's
top
missed-
five
one of the
clutch
league
shooters
guys.
of all
He was
time.
missed so many-
Of
Go
all
back. You know what
time.
I'm talking about? I'm talking about the Golden State. Go look at the fourth
Okay,
quarters.
so
It
you
was
can't-
all of them. All
You
four
can't
fourth
have
quarters.
a
Go
bad
look.
game?
Yeah, I already told you. The Clippers shamed him in the bubble because they had no respect for his clutch shooting. They're saying, Dame, come on, give me a break. Go look at the Olympics. Go look at what happened. Go look at how Kevin saved him and took him off the hook for choking 2 late free throws in the gold medal game. Just go look at it. There have been so many stretches when he hasn't been. He got so much out of Dame time. He hit a great shot against Russ because he hates Russ, and he hit a big shot
The only
against
reason why he hit
James
the shot
Harden.
is because he hates Russ. So
Well,
he focused in and hit the shot because of Russ.
Yes, you know that, and I know
Skip,
that.
I don't know that.
No, come on, Keyshawn. What are you talking about?
Okay,
He despised
so you
him.
cherry-
It was raw emotion. He said, I got this.
Yes.
Yes, it was. You know it, and I know. What are you talking about?
I like what you're about to
Yeah, I want
say.
to know what you're talking about. How can you ask me what I'm talking
Preach,
about?
please, Key. I'm
Yes.
waiting for it.
Yeah.
He made me forget my train
Okay.
of thought.
All right, well, I'm going to finish my train of thought.
Yes.
Dame got a star, and he's quasi-superstar, and that's LaMarcus Aldridge. And I was a big fan of LaMarcus because he's a really good human being.
He is.
And he was a 9-time All-Star. Maybe he's wine in the refrigerator, but I would put him in the basement. Maybe
Okay.
not at auction, but I'll put him in the basement. And they played together for 3 years, and they clashed like crazy behind the scenes.
Okay.
These are two good guys. I think Dame's a good guy, but he can be a little insecure occasionally, a little...
What are you talking about?
I know, I've heard it. I've heard it. I've gone back and forth
Not
with him.
insecure.
Okay, I got it. I'm just telling you, they clashed. So are we sure, as much as it sounds like a fairy tale right now, are we sure that he's going to be good with another star?
You know why they
Okay,
clashed?
go back and look at what happened in Portland in those 3 years. What happened? Nothing. Nothing happened.
Nothing happened in Portland good since Bill Walton played there.
Okay,
I mean, like, come on.
All right, but come on. But you have
he's
had
not
two
mentally,
perennial all-stars.
Just because you have two perennial all-stars, and Rachel could speak to this more so than I can in terms of the NBA, it at least takes 2.5.
And also,
Okay, maybe 3 in this day and age in the NBA to get what you want. That was an outlier in Toronto what Kawhi did. Okay, that ball bounced around, went in. Otherwise, Philadelphia is playing in the NBA Finals. But I don't want you to say that the guy is not mentally tough. And then you, on top of that, you say he clashed. Anytime you have an alpha male that has a certain vision on what his team should be and how they should go about doing things, they're going to clash. Your beloved guy, Michael Jordan, clashed with people because he saw it a certain way. Okay,
Kobe, people who just told him how it was going to be.
And what? Okay, so you want to use
that's a one-way street.
Instead of saying
that's
clash, instead of saying clash, he wanted to be a certain way. I'll give you that. He wanted to be a certain way.
Yeah.
Kobe Bryant wanted it to be a certain way. Great players act like that. That is their way they do things from a mental standpoint.
All right, but
so
at
to
that
say
point,
he's not mental
LaMarcus
tough,
was better than Damian was.
But look, LaMarcus Aldridge, again, as you say, really quality human, a good player in so many aspects. But he was disgruntled with a lot of his role in Portland. That had to do with why some of the unhappiness was there, as opposed to Damian Lillard, who has proven himself year after year to be an excellent teammate, an excellent leader. And by the way, excellent in the clutch, including at the free throw line. Skip, I know those particular free throws stick in your craw.
Yes,
I get it. But this guy is second in league history in clutch free throws. Second.
You know Kobe missed clutch free throws, too.
And
so did Jordan.
And Damian has the second worst playoff winning percentage of anybody since he entered the league.
That
You say,
is
well, he didn't have any help. Well, he did have LaMarcus Aldridge, and he had CJ, who was really good.
So in the playoffs, they go up against other Western Conference teams. You do understand that. It's not against the East.
Okay.
Do you know the gauntlet of the Western Conference teams doing that tenure?
Wait.
Come on now,
We just said he's wine at the auction. Well, wine at the auction has a better winning percentage in the postseason than he does. I'm sorry, it just does. It just does, because this is a one-man sport. If you have one guy, you got a shot.
Not
yes,
anymore.
it is.
I just explained to you, it takes 2.5 to 3.
By the way,
everybody has 2.5 to 3.
Look at the Clippers right now, 2 perennial All-Stars, and we've seen what they have not been able to do.
They haven't been.
You got me
healthy at
acting
all.
like you now, man.
No, I'm trying to teach some
my
sense
blood
to you.
pressure checked.
You're finally getting schooled.
No, I'm
You're
not
finally coming to the reality.
Both Rachel and myself just told you, you need at least 2.5 to 3. It does not work like that anymore.
Okay, but
every team
you
that
have
wins,
to have one. You have to have one. Philadelphia has Joel Embiid.
And that's why they've been here. And that's exactly why they've been where they're at. Because all they had, all Philadelphia's had, is Joel, because Harden hadn't done well. And outside of that, Maxey and company. But you need 3.
Okay.
You have to have
Miami once again got to the finals because they have one. Seriously, they have one.
Miami got to the finals because that one turned into, at a point in time, he turned into 3 for that short stretch. But then when it got time, he started disappearing. Now, whether or not it was his fatigue or he got injured, maybe it was his ankle, it came up. You need 3, man.
Without that one, they don't get to the finals,
And
obviously.
by the way, it needs to be the right combination. There's not
right
a hard and fast
combination.
rule, obviously. Sometimes you got 2 big stars and they win a title. However, and look at Denver, right? I mean, you had 2 really big high wattage stars and then a bunch of really, really good players in the supporting cast. So there's not a hard and fast rule. That being said, no one can do it by themselves anymore. That is absolutely true. So you look at Damian Lillard's winning percentage in the playoffs. I understand he had LaMarcus Aldridge next to him for a few years, but overall, he has not had the kind of team that is going to compete.
No.
Especially, you keep referring to that Western Conference Finals. That Golden State team that was playing against them is literally the most talent-rich team of all time.
Got like 5 Hall of Famers or something like that on that team.
You're talking about against Portland?
Yes.
There's no Kevin Durant.
I understand,
No Kevin Durant.
but I don't know if you've heard
boiled
of Steph
down
Curry.
to,
He's very good.
I know, but it boiled down to obviously Steph and Clay against CJ and Dame. And guess what? When it was time, and CJ was a culprit also, both Dame and CJ just disappeared in 4 straight fourth quarters. Go back and look at it. Go back and look at the numbers.
I'm not going back and look at anything.
Yeah, because it would blow up your argument. But
I'm
it's
not
okay.
arguing. I'm just, you gonna have me have high blood pressure. This dude, man, he can't stop.
I mean, it's a good conversation. I like the conversation. I'm interested in talking more Damian Lillard
Just trying to
later in
bring
the
some
show.
perspective to all the happy talk over there. Great, 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 right?
I can't with you.
All right, now I got to talk about my Dallas Cowboys. It is time. Should the Cowboys be celebrating Zeke's return to Dallas?
No mercy.
Thanks for watching, Undisputed fans. Do you want more highlights from the show? Make sure to click that subscribe button for all the exclusive content from Undisputed.